Hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel and happy new year. This is the first video of the year for me, and welcome. It's been a while since I recorded, and I'm thinking of being more consistent. It's not a promise, but it's a commitment I'm making to myself. Okay, so let's get into the topic of the day because I don't want this video to be too long. I'm going to try to make it, as concise as possible, but at the same time, making it more insightful, making it, more knowledgeable and sharing things that I feel like can help you to better your 2025, right? So I believe a lot of you are setting up financial goals and you have things which you plan to achieve in 2025. So I thought to create 9 simple rules that can set you up for financial success in 2025. These are the basic things that you just need to do for you to be successful in personal finance. And it's easy, as in like a simple things that you probably know already. But if you implement them, this can help you to be successful and to be able to achieve the goals in which you want, right? So, number one, you need to create a budget that suits your lifestyle. I know this sounds like, well, yeah, as when the budgeting, we know, right? But for me, budgeting is a financial plan. It's like, how do I plan to execute what I have set for myself, whether it's the savings, investing, building a business, whatever. For me, the execution of your plans happens in your budget. Hence, budgeting is important. And why do I say the one that suits your lifestyle? It's very important for you to be aware of some of the things that don't seem to be too big, but you do them more often for your lifestyle that cost money, for you to incorporate that into your budget as well. And then we're going to go to point number 2, which is, save intentionally. Save intentionally and save in alignment to a particular goal. So one of the ways in which we set ourselves up for financial failure, it's just the thought of, oh, this year I want to save, or this year I want to save 100K. So when you don't put a life relatable goal against a saving, it's much easier for you to not see why you should prioritize those savings. So when you do your budget and you know for sure that you want to buy a house next year, within your budget, you will allocate saving cost for transfer cost, registration cost, as well as maybe moving out cost from where you're currently staying to moving into your new house. So when savings goals are attached to the betterment of our livelihood, it's much easier for you to take them seriously. So be intentional about saving, but at the same time, kind of put how you want that particular saving that you're saving for to better your life so that you will understand why you should prioritize it. Okay. So number 3 is pay your debt off, right? So there are 2 methods of paying debt. There is one which focuses on small amount, so meaning that all these small credits that you have, whether it's a clothing account, a phone bill, you can collectively close them. And this means that you are freeing money that is locked away on installment to reallocate it to something which is a priority to you. For an example, let's say you're building an emergency fund and the process of building an emergency fund is taking you too long. You can just always close up those small credits and just try to make sure that that money that you close on small credit is allocated to your then building an emergency fund. Another one is looking into high interest credit. This is simply because high interest credit actually cost more because the higher the interest, the higher the percentage you're going to pay against that credit. Possibly you will take long to finish it. So you are paying the more expensive credit and it saves you money because when you pay faster on high credit, you're probably going to pay low interest anyway. So just close off where you can so that you can free some money and reallocate it to places where you can intentionally say, this is my goal, this is where I feel like intentionally I want to allocate my money, right? So do that, free your money and allocate it somewhere else. Number 4, be mindful of your spending. So for you to be able to achieve your spending goals, your savings goals, your paying off of your debt goal, you have to free some money. And sometimes you cannot necessarily pay off your debt. Sometimes if you have long-term debts like your car, your house, you may not be able to pay them off. So that simply means that you need to find money somewhere else. The first place to unlock your money when you have a serious goals that you're intentional about is to look into your spending habit. And how do you do that? You review your banking statement to see where the money leaks are coming from. Money leaks are places where money is coming out, but you have no intention, you're not intentionally leaking that money. Let me give an example. At some point I used to eat food from Uber Eats only, like takeaways, right? And then when I do consolidation of my statement, I realized that, oh my God, I'm spending about 2,000 Rand on Uber Eats per month. And I still buy groceries at the same time. So that means I was double dipping. I was paying double for the same intention. So I stopped buying from Uber Eats. But not only did I stop buying from Uber Eats, what I did was I reallocated that money to some place else so that at least I can see the value of limiting my Uber Eats purchases. So that's what money leak is. It means 2,000 Rand is going and you're not intentionally taking it there, or you have not planned that you want to spend it there. So then you are able to identify those places and reallocate money to someplace else. One of my mentees told me that from November last year in 2024, she stopped buying from Uber Eats. And even for her, it was about 2,000 Rand that she was using. She said what she did is she started contributing at least 2,000 Rand to a tax-free savings account, because now she's cautious that that's the money that would have gone to Uber Eats anyway. So that's where the cautiousness of spending then comes in. And somehow we just have to agree that if you want financial success, there has to be some sacrifice that you have to make. There is no way that you can achieve everything while doing everything, because the money that we have is limited, right? So there's always something that's fighting for our back. So we will have to learn to live below our means, but at the same time to reallocate the money to where we can intentionally spend. That was number 4. Number 5 is investing for a long term. I'm very passionate about this because I feel like today we have the power of deciding how we want tomorrow to be like. And one of the ways in which you can do that is to be intentional and consistent about how you are investing for your future. If you don't do nothing, trust me, tomorrow you will still be the same way that you are today. One of the things that I always tell my mentees is that although having high income matters, what is more important is actually how much you get to keep for yourself, because that's what influences how your life is going to be in a long run. So try by all means to keep as much as you can of the money that's coming in. That's what building wealth is about. In as much as, yes, when I earn more I can save more, it's true, but ultimately, if I earn more and all that money is spent somewhere, that means that I am a paycheck away from being broke. I am a paycheck away from losing all the things that I currently have. I'm a paycheck away from being evicted, or from being from my house being sent to auction. There's nothing as sad as having someone who is a high income earner losing their house, losing their cars. That simply means that the money that was coming in was definitely going out, and there was no reserves that they were building. So start investing, start early, so that you can maximize on compound interest in time, because the earlier you start, the more you give your money to make more money and make more money. And that's how compound interest work, and your money gets to grow exponentially. Come tomorrow, you are a different person. And to be honest, guys, having reserves, having money that you know you have, gives you a certain level of comfortability when it comes to how you handle life. There is the biggest issue that I find when people have struggles in life. It's also the fact that they have no money to fund whatever circumstances that they're going through. You know, I remember a friend of mine said, oh, so I'm going through a breakup and I'm going to Dubai for 2 weeks. I'm not saying that going to Dubai heals you from a breakup, but you deal with things differently when the money is there. And that's what we want. We want to be able to have money that can better our livelihood. Number 6, it's building an emergency fund. I'm also passionate about building an emergency fund, because when you have savings goals and investment goals and you don't have an emergency fund, what would normally happen is that When an emergency happens, you will steal from your savings, you will steal from your investments. So for you to be able to have a long-term plan that is stable and is not destabilized by events that can happen in life, because events will definitely come, it's when you have an emergency fund. An emergency fund is money that you put away for in case of an emergency, so that you can stick to the plan. For me, it's just about making sure that your life doesn't get destabilized because there's something happening. So you have a short-term emergency fund, you also have a long-term emergency fund, and I'm gonna do a video about emergency fund separately. But the short-term one is for things that can happen today, that can destabilize your life today, meaning that it's a small amount, it's a smaller portion, right? Maybe 1 month worth of your living expenses. And the long-term investment is like 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses. And the reason you need, the long-term one, you need to build it, is because COVID has taught us that you can lose your employment, you can be retrenched, you can be laid off. And the biggest issue that we have when we get into this kind of situation, it's not necessarily the situation itself, is how do we navigate ourselves from here. You have a child who is in school, you pay their education fees on a month to month, and if you get laid off, the thinking, to be honest, more than just you doing your job, it's more of how do I support my child. So you want to build an emergency fund that will help you to think about your job when you're being laid off or when you're being retrenched, instead of thinking about your child, because your child will be taken care of because you have an emergency fund. So then you are able to go with courage, to go with strength and confidence to seek for another employment. Because what happens is, if you don't have money at all, you're going to be so stressed that you won't even have the energy to go and seek for another employment. So let's have an emergency fund, prepare our well-being and prepare our mental health as well, so that when we face circumstances that desire money, you get into an accident and so forth and so forth, what you don't want to be thinking about is, where will I find the money to be able to rescue myself from this situation and face the situation itself. And sometimes situations are not bad. I mean, getting into an accident simply means that it's a car, it can be fixed, it's a car, you can buy another one. But imagine you are hurt and you don't even have money for medical aid, and you don't have money to fix the car. Then the problem, not having money exacerbates the size of the problem. Okay, number 7, track your expenses and make amendments. I am a huge fan of this, and I'm going to make a video about it. For me, tracking your expenses is what I call a payday routine. So before every payday, I sit with my statement, I sit with my budget, and try to compare if my expenses from the statement is matching what I have planned for on my budget. Because sometimes we think we know ourselves, and then you just write your budget from your head, and then when you check your statement, it doesn't reflect what you've planned for. So that kind of comparison allows you to actually see if you are living what you've been planning for. So, and then if there's areas where there's misalignment, then you can realign and be cautious about it going through the next month. So there's no need for you to just think that, I have a budget, I did it once in January and that's it, because not all the months are the same. Some months you're gonna have a friend who's having a birthday party. Some months you're gonna want to go to vacation. Some months you have a graduation. Some months something does happen. So months are not the same, and hence it's important for you to plan for that particular month and say, what will I do in February? What will I do in March? What will I do in May, based on the income that's coming? And then that can minimize the amount of surprises that you get to see, and also increase your potential to meet what you've set for yourself as goals, savings goals, investment goals, and. So make sure that you get to familiarize yourself with reviewing the statement and making changes on the plan itself based on the reality that we see on the statement. Number 8, increase your financial literacy, guys. A lot of people say, well, Zwanda was robbed, Zwanda, they scammed me, but ultimately you found that they're just being sold a product that is not in alignment with their goals. But the more you know, the more you can make informed decisions and choose products that are in alignment with the goals that you're trying to get, right? So it's very important that you're clued about insurances, you're clued about products and how they work, the differences between unit trust, ETS, and so forth and so forth, how the banks works, how do you make money on government retail bonds, how do you buy a house, what is an OTP. So familiarize yourself with this world, because you are most likely to be scammed, even when you're not the person who's selling your product is not intentionally scamming you, but you're most likely to put your signature on the wrong thing. And when it doesn't result with what you had intended to get, then the output is being scammed, although there was no intention as well. So to minimize places where we are sold the wrong products, places where we get into the wrong contracts, places where we get committed over a long period of time without knowing what we are committing to, and things don't result into what we have expected. Let's educate ourselves. You can do that through YouTube. You can do that through reading books. You can do that by watching TikTok as well, which is like a very short 1-minute video. At least have the basics of personal finance, so that you get to ask the correct questions when you are faced with a decision that affects your money, right? And lastly, negotiate. Guys, I'm a big fan of negotiating. This is simply because you have nothing to lose. But also at the same time, who doesn't want a best deal when they're actually trying to get a product or service, right? So let me give you an example. One time I was at H&M and I was, buying a jacket, like a long jacket, jean jacket. I'm on my jean era. So, and then it just came to my mind to say, actually, this jean jacket is expensive. It's beautiful. It was 700 rand. And I was like, no, man, it's too expensive. And when I got to the till, I asked that guy, I was like, do you not by any chance have discount? I was like, I don't have discount. What do you mean discount? I was like, something you can just give me. We laughed. But then he's like, you know what? By the way, if you sign up for the newsletter, you can get 15%. Used my email, signed up for the newsletter, I got 15%, and I ended up buying that jean jacket for 500 rand. I didn't lose anything, they didn't lose anything. But I asked and I got. Even if I didn't get that 15%, I was still gonna buy. But now I have 150 or 200 rand, which I can use elsewhere. I can use to fuel my car, So negotiate, guys. Negotiate in small things, negotiate in big things. And of course, be reasonable and respectful about it, because it's not like you're trying to manipulate someone. But if there's a window, try to say what you need to say, so that, a person who you're asking can either grant you or reject you, and the worst that can happen is a no. And that was it. Those are 9 simple things that you can incorporate into your 2025 planning, your 2025 goal setting, that can ensure that you are most likely to achieve what you have set up for yourself. Goodbye. I hope you guys enjoy this, and you like, you comment, you subscribe. But if you have watched until this end, because I have purple nails, please just give me a purple heart, and let's surprise those who didn't watch until the end. Bye bye, guys.